hadn't planned on staying. I told myself I'd just drop off the box of tools I'd borrowed from her son and be gone before she even noticed. But when she opened the door herself, hair still damp, sleeves pushed to her elbows, I forgot what I was supposed to say. "Come in before you melt," she said, glancing past me at the steady drizzle. Her voice was warm, but there was something in the way she didn't step back right away, like she was weighing whether to let me cross the threshold. Inside, the air smelled faintly of coffee and lemon furniture polish. She moved around the kitchen, not looking directly at me, just talking, asking about classes, if I'd eaten, how my car was running. I answered too quickly, then too slowly, aware that every word felt like stepping on thin ice. She caught me staring at her hands when she dried them on a dish towel. "What?" she asked, with a small smile that wasn't quite a smile. "Nothing. Just, you look busy," I said, and immediately hated how it sounded. Her eyes narrowed a little, not in annoyance but in curiosity. She set the towel down and leaned against the counter, crossing one ankle over the other. "I'm not busy." The clock on the wall ticked louder than it should have. I told myself to leave, but my hand stayed on the back of the chair. She noticed. She notices everything. "You've changed," she said quietly. I tried to laugh it off. "It's been a while since I've been over." "No," she said, tilting her head. "Not that kind of change." Her gaze held mine just a second too long, and I felt it. That pull, like she was looking somewhere past my face, past the front I thought I kept. She looked like someone trying not to remember something, and failing. When I finally set the toolbox down by the door, she walked over to me, close enough that I could hear the faint creak of the floorboards under her bare feet. "Rain's coming harder," she murmured, glancing toward the window. "You could wait it out." "I don't mind walking," I said, but it came out softer than I intended. "You'll get soaked," she replied, and this time, she stepped past me to close the door. The latch clicked in the quiet. She stood there for a moment with her back to the wood, one hand still on it, the other brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. Then she looked at me in a way that made the room feel smaller. "I've been waiting for this," she said. My throat felt dry. "For what?" She didn't answer right away, just let the question hang between us, her eyes tracing the line of my jaw like she was committing it to memory. Then she moved, slow, deliberate, past me into the living room, glancing once over her shoulder. "Come sit down," she said. I followed, not because I'd decided what I wanted, but because in that moment I didn't trust myself to do anything else. I'd been in her living room before, but never like this. Before, there were other people, voices from the kitchen, the TV on, her son tossing me a beer while she moved around in the background. Now it was just the sound of rain against the windows and the faint hum of the refrigerator down the hall. She sat on the couch, tucking one leg under herself. I stayed standing for a second too long, like sitting would mean agreeing to something I didn't yet understand. "Your mom okay with you walking in weather like this?" she asked. Her tone was light, but the way her fingers traced the rim of her coffee mug made it sound like she wasn't really asking about the rain. I smiled faintly. She stopped keeping tabs on me a while ago. There was something unguarded in her face for a second. A flicker of recognition, like she understood exactly what that felt like. Then it was gone. She gestured for me to sit. I lowered myself into the armchair across from her, but it felt too far. I noticed the small things. The faint scent of her shampoo, the way her sweater slipped just off one shoulder without her fixing it, the thin gold ring she twisted absent-mindedly. I told myself to look anywhere else, but my eyes kept returning to her. "How's school?" she asked. I hesitated. "Fine, I guess." She tilted her head. "That's not much of an answer." I shrugged, forcing a laugh. "I didn't think you'd want the full version. Try me." And so I told her. Not everything, but enough. About a class I was failing. About how I'd been thinking of dropping it but didn't know what that would mean later. About feeling like everyone else had a plan, and I didn't. She didn't interrupt. Just listened, her eyes on me in a way that made the words come easier than they should have. "You're harder on yourself than you need to be," she said finally. "But I get it. I used to do the same thing." Her voice softened on that last part. Something in it made me wonder what she'd been hard on herself about. I wanted to ask, but I didn't. The rain got heavier, drumming against the windows. She stood, crossed the room, and placed her mug in the sink. When she came back, she didn't sit on the couch again. She leaned against the arm of my chair, her hip just inches from my shoulder. "You should stay a while," she said quietly. I glanced up at her. "Why?" Her hand rested lightly on my arm, just enough to feel the warmth of her skin through my sleeve. "Because I don't feel like being alone right now." My heart kicked hard in my chest. I almost said the thing that had been pressing at the back of my throat since she closed the door. But instead, I sat there, feeling her hand linger just a second longer than it needed to. Her hand was still on my arm when the phone rang. The sudden sound made us both flinch, but she didn't move it right away, just let her fingers curl slightly, as if steadying herself. "It's fine," she murmured, almost to herself. But the phone kept ringing, and when she finally crossed the room to answer it, I caught the shift in her posture. Straightening, smoothing her sweater, softening her tone. "Hey," she said into the receiver, voice light, almost practiced. "Yeah, it's just me here." A pause. "No, he's not around right now." I didn't want to listen, but the words slid through anyway, catching on the edges of my thoughts. When she hung up, she stayed by the counter a moment longer, her hand resting on the receiver as if she wasn't ready to let it go. "Was that?" I started. She cut me off gently. "Just a friend. Nothing important." But there was something in her face. Not guilt exactly, not fear. More like someone suddenly reminded of the line they weren't supposed to step over. She came back toward me, slower this time, her eyes tracing the space between us. I wanted to lean back, to put something solid in the air between us, but I didn't move. "You're quiet," she said. "I'm just thinking about." Could have lied. I should have. But instead I said, "About how different you are when no one else is around." Her mouth parted slightly, but she didn't speak right away. Then, almost reluctantly, "And how am I different?" "You actually look at me," I said. My voice came out lower than I expected. That made her step closer. She was standing in front of me now, close enough that the hem of her sweater brushed my knee. Her eyes searched mine. Not challenging, but like she was trying to see if I meant it. "I shouldn't," she began, but stopped. Her hand drifted down, brushing against mine in a way that could have been accidental if it weren't so deliberate. The air felt heavier. I could hear the faint rush of the rain in the gutters outside, smell the faint citrus on her skin. My mind told me to lean back, to make a joke, to break the tension before it broke me. But my body stayed exactly where it was. Then there was a knock at the door. We both turned toward it, but neither of us moved to answer. The knock came again, louder this time. She let out a breath that sounded almost frustrated, then glanced back at me. "Don't," she said softly, as if reading my mind. "Stay." Her hand was still close enough to catch mine if I reached for it. And for one long, impossible moment, I thought we might forget about the door entirely. The knocking stopped, and the silence that followed was worse. She stood there for a moment, her hand hovering near the back of the couch like she needed something to hold on to. I could hear her breathing steady, but deeper than before. "Whoever it was," I said quietly, "they'll come back." Her eyes flicked to mine. "And that bothers you?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. She studied me for a long moment, then shook her head like she was shaking something off. "This is dangerous," she said, almost under her breath. I leaned forward, my elbows on my knees. "Then why close the door?" She froze. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I could see the conflict in her face, the part of her that wanted to explain, and the part that didn't trust what might slip out. "I don't know," she admitted finally, but it didn't sound like the truth. Her sweater slipped further down her shoulder, and she made no move to fix it. My eyes followed the curve of skin until I caught myself and looked away. "You should go," she said, but her voice didn't match the words. I stood, slow enough to watch how her gaze shifted with me. "Do you want me to?" Her mouth opened, closed. She looked down, twisting the gold ring on her finger. Faster this time, almost like she wanted to wear it down. "You notice everything," she said finally. I stepped closer. "Not everything." Her eyes lifted to mine, and the distance between us felt paper-thin. "What don't you notice?" I swallowed. "When you're looking at me like that." The words landed between us, heavy. She didn't back away. Instead, she exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath for too long. "You shouldn't say things like that," she murmured. "I mean them," I said. Her hand twitched at her side, like she wanted to reach for me but couldn't. We stood there, staring at each other, until the rain outside eased into a faint drizzle. Then she stepped forward, not enough to touch me, but enough that I could feel the warmth from her. Her eyes searched mine, not looking for answers, but permission. "Tell me you'll leave if I ask," she said. I didn't move. "Do you want me to?" Her silence was answer enough. For a moment, the room felt like it had shrunk to just the space between our eyes. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us stepped back. The clock in the kitchen ticked once, twice, and then nothing but the kind of silence that changes everything. The silence broke first, not with a word, but with the sound of her phone buzzing again on the counter. She glanced at it, then at me, and I could see the hesitation before she picked it up. She didn't answer right away. When she finally did, her voice was quieter than before. "Yeah, I'm still here." A pause. "No, he's not with me. He dropped the tools off earlier." I felt the air change. Her eyes flicked to me mid-sentence, and I knew she was lying for me. The call ended, but she didn't put the phone down. She just stood there, her thumb hovering over the screen like she was still connected to something she couldn't hang up on. I broke the quiet. "Who was that?" She hesitated. "Your friend." "My?" I stopped. There was only one person she could mean. She turned the phone face down on the counter. "He thinks you left an hour ago." I stepped toward her, my pulse quickening. "Why didn't you just tell him?" Her laugh was short, humorless. "Do you want me to?" The question hit harder than I expected. I didn't answer. "That's what I thought," she said softly. The room felt heavier now, not because of what was happening, but because of everything we both suddenly knew could happen. I searched her face. "So he's been calling you?" She didn't look away. "Sometimes, mostly about nothing. But lately, I think he's been checking on me." The pieces fell into place in my head. The call earlier, the knock at the door, the way her voice shifted when she spoke to whoever it was. He knew something was different. Maybe he'd sensed it before I did. And now I couldn't stop thinking about it. How many times she'd answered his calls with me on the other side of the door. "You could have told me," I said. "And what would you have done with that?" I didn't know. But the fact that she hadn't told me felt like something. Not betrayal exactly, but a reminder that she had power here, too. She took a step toward me, and her expression softened. "Don't make this about him." "Isn't it already?" She stopped in front of me, so close I could see the faint shadow of her lashes. "No," she said, almost a whisper. "This is about you. And me." I didn't move. Neither did she. We just stood there. The rain outside barely a mist now, our breaths mixing in the space between us. But in the back of my mind, the image of my friend's number lighting up her phone stayed. And I couldn't decide if that made me want to walk away or never leave. She was still in front of me, her words hanging in the air like they could shatter if either of us moved too fast. Could have stepped back. I could have told her she was right, that this wasn't about my friend, that it didn't matter what she'd said on the phone. But I didn't. I don't know how to stop thinking about you, I said. The words were heavier than I meant them to be, but once they were out, I didn't try to take them back. Her eyes flicked down, just for a moment, before finding mine again. You shouldn't say that. I mean it, I said. Every time I'm here, every time I'm not, it's the same. She shook her head, but it wasn't in denial. It was like she was trying to keep herself from leaning into the thing she'd been holding back. You don't know what you're asking for, she whispered. Yes, I do. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I could see the war in her. Guilt pulling one way, longing pulling the other. I thought she might step back. Instead, she reached up and touched my jaw, her fingers warm and tentative, like she was afraid I'd flinch. I didn't. You think I haven't wanted this? She said, her voice low. My chest tightened. Have you? She let out a breath, almost a laugh, but it was too soft to be amusement. Since the first time you looked at me like I wasn't just someone's mom. Something inside me cracked. All the careful distance I'd been trying to keep dissolved in that moment. I stepped in, closing the space, and she didn't move away. But I didn't kiss her. Not yet. Tell me to go, I said. She didn't. Instead, she slid her hand to the back of my neck, pulling me just close enough that I could feel her breath on my cheek. I can't. It wasn't a confession. It was surrender. I closed my eyes, just for a second, letting the weight of it settle in my chest. Then I kissed her, slow, deliberate, like we were both trying to memorize the exact shape of this moment before the world could take it back. When we finally pulled apart, her forehead rested against mine. Neither of us spoke right away. What happens now? I asked. She didn't answer at first. Then, softly, we stop pretending we don't know what we're doing. It wasn't a promise, but it was enough. We stayed like that for a long moment, her forehead against mine, both of us still catching our breath as if the air itself felt different now. The rain had stopped outside, but the streets would still be wet, that after-storm stillness where everything feels quieter than it should. She pulled back just enough to look at me, her hand still resting on my neck. You know this changes everything, she said. I know, I replied, and I did. I wasn't just her son's friend anymore. I wasn't just the guy who stopped by to drop off tools. The line we'd been circling for weeks, maybe months, was gone now, and there was no pretending it hadn't been crossed. She stepped away, moving toward the kitchen. I thought, for a moment, she might pour herself another coffee just to fill the space between us. But instead, she leaned against the counter and looked at me with something steadier than she had all day. I used to feel guilty just letting myself think about this, she said. Like if I kept busy enough, it would go away. And now? I asked. Now I know it doesn't go away, she said simply. It just gets harder to ignore. That was the thing. She wasn't confessing a sudden change of heart. She was admitting this had been real for longer than I'd let myself believe. I crossed the room to her, not rushing, but without stopping. I don't want to ignore it, I said. Her eyes softened, but there was still that flicker of worry. Not about me, but about what this meant for the world outside these walls. It's going to be complicated. I can handle complicated, I said. I can't handle walking out that door and pretending this didn't happen. She studied me for a long moment, as if measuring the weight of those words. Then she reached for my hand, not with the uncertainty of before, but with a quiet finality. Then stay, she said, and I did. We didn't talk much after that. We didn't need to. The unspoken things, the guilt, the hesitation, the feeling of being truly seen, had shifted into something else entirely. Something that didn't have to hide anymore. Later, when the light outside began to fade and the streets started to glisten again under the street lamps, she walked me to the door. Not to send me away, but to stand there with me for a moment, as if acknowledging we were stepping into something new. I didn't look back when I left. I didn't have to. I knew I'd be back, because whatever rules we'd been following before no longer applied.